Google Pixel 8 Pro, the screen is broken. The back is relatively in good condition. This device needs a brand new screen. This screen cannot be salvaged. But before I do anything, I need to test the fingerprint sensor to make sure that it is working currently, so that if it doesn't work later, I know that there is something wrong during the process of replacing the screen. The fingerprint sensor does not register my fingerprint completely, but it does work. Here's the new screen that I will be installing on this Google Pixel 8 Pro. So number one, we need to hit the screen of this device, the broken screen, then start removing the screen, detach the screen from the frame of this 8 Pro. So the next step was to use a suction cup in order to pull the screen slightly, have a small gap between the screen and the frame of the device, then insert a guitar pick and start detaching the screen from the body of the Pixel 8 Pro. So the way Google has manufactured the screen makes it very fragile, and the screen tends to disintegrate itself while you're trying to remove it. So this is what I was saying. You can see here that the polarizer is starting to get separated from the screen. So I continued with the guitar pick and started moving it around on the sides of this Pixel 8 Pro in order to separate the screen from the body of the device. So here the screen is already broken, so being very careful does not really matter. You just need to open the device and then start disconnecting the flex cable from the screen onto the motherboard. In order to access the flex cable for the screen, you need to remove this small retaining plate that was covering the flex cable. Okay, at this moment, for any other smartphones, you need to disconnect the battery cable before you move on any other things. But with the Google Pixel 8 Pro and other Google Pixel Pro, you have to remove the screen flex cable first in order to access the battery cable. And the battery cable is also covered by the mid frame, which is a metallic plate. So since there is no way around this, I believe that this is the way they have done their processes, and this should not cause any damage to any screen. So now that the screen has been removed, I can start working on the mid frame, remove all the screws that are on the mid frame, then have access to the battery. So now you need to remove the graphite tape that is covering the battery and going all the way to the cameras. So while doing that, there is this cable that is very close to where the screen flex cable was connected to the motherboard. You need to disconnect that cable and start pulling that cable away from that connection area. You're going to remove that cable completely and move it all the way to the top of the device. The cable is held by the mid frame with some double-sided tape, that's all. You just need to pull it and it is going to get removed. You need to continue with the graphite tape, push it all the way to the cameras, then you have freed the mid frame. So I tried to remove the mid frame, but it wasn't working, and I was feeling that there is one screw left, and that one was hidden at the bottom of the device. This screw is very close to the charging port. So now with all the screws removed, I can simply lift the mid frame of this Pixel 8 Pro. After doing that, you have access to all the components for this device. You can remove the battery cable now. So for the battery cable, you can remove it with your finger, or you can use a plastic tool to remove the battery cable. Never remove a battery cable with a metal tool. It is very risky. It might create fire or short and also damage your motherboard. Now I'm connecting the screen flex cable for the new screen, and I'm going to test that new screen to make sure that it is working, it is not broken. So after I know that the screen is working properly, I will move on the fingerprint sensor. The device is turning on and the screen is working properly. I do not see any cracks on this new screen, and I'm just going to test the screen very quickly, make sure that it is working. Now that I have confirmed that the new screen is working and it wasn't damaged by shipment, I can remove it and now install all the screws and the mid frame, make sure that everything has been installed, then move on the fingerprint sensor. So now the next step is to remove the fingerprint sensor from the old broken screen. You need to open the circuit for the fingerprint sensor. You need to push that plastic up. So once it is open, you can start pulling the fingerprint sensor. Be very careful. This is a very fragile flex cable, and if you're not careful, you can damage it. So as for me, I was not able to remove the fingerprint sensor flex cable from its connection. So currently I decided to work on the fingerprint sensor, the connector, and the sensor part. The heat gun is at 600 Fahrenheit and blowing the air directly on the screen, precisely on the spot where the fingerprint sensor is. So I found it very easy to start removing the fingerprint sensor all the way up to the metallic part. If you detach the fingerprint sensor from the screen all the way to the metallic part that you can see, then you can start removing the flex cable from its connector. So if you have a tweezer, you need to be careful. I kept the plastic portion of the tweezer on one end in order to have a solid grip in order to remove that flex cable in the connector. So removing the flex cable inside the connector could have been done if I had used the same method earlier, but after removing some portion of that flex cable connected to the screen, it gets a lot easier to maneuver that flex cable and remove it from the connector. So now I'm still using 600 Fahrenheit and I'm pulling the flex cable all the way to the metallic piece that you can see, the metallic shiny piece on the fingerprint sensor. You need to remove the flex cable from the screen all the way to that spot. Once you're there, stop. So now I'm going to use the same method that I did with my Pixel 7 Pro. I use my flat metal tool in order to detach the fingerprint sensor. So this tool is flat, it is not sharp and it cannot cut. So with the heat, the double-sided tape is soft. I just inserted the tool slightly on the edge of the sides, on the right side and then on the left side. I just insert a small portion of the tool. Do not insert a big piece, just a small portion of this flat metal tool in order to detach the double-sided tape from the screen. I'm done with the sides. I need to do the same thing for the top. So in the top also you need to do the same thing. Insert the flat metal tool right under the fingerprint sensor and just insert a small piece. So after all this, I tried to move the fingerprint sensor with my finger. It wasn't working, so I need to redo the same thing again. So this time I started with the top. I did it once, then I started working on the right side. Once I had inserted the tool on the right side, I had pressed on the fingerprint sensor and moved everything together. After that, I can remove the fingerprint sensor. So here's the fingerprint sensor. I inserted a small portion of this flat tool on the three sides, which let me remove it. You do not want to insert the tool and it scratched the small square that you see. That's the sensor. Or you do not want to insert the tool and it scratched that micro component on the right of the sensor. So the installation on the new screen should be very easy. If you can remove this plastic covering the digitizer very easily without damaging it. You need to be careful if you have a screen like this in removing this plastic on the back of the screen. For the installation of the fingerprint sensor, you simply need to have the flex cable inside the connector in that position, and the fingerprint sensor is going to be aligned perfectly with the screen. Also, while connecting the flex cable for the fingerprint sensor, make sure that you're careful because it is very small and you might even need a tweezer in order to have it connected on that screen connector. The screen is working. I just went inside the settings and tried to find the fingerprint. I do not see any fingerprint inside security and privacy, so which means that 1. The fingerprint sensor is damaged. 2. The fingerprint sensor is not correctly inserted or there is some issue with the fingerprint sensor. The first thing I did was to reset the device. Maybe that will sync the fingerprint sensor with the screen and all that, but it didn't work. Resetting the device didn't make the fingerprint sensor appear. So next I simply went back and removed the flex cable for the fingerprint sensor and reconnected that flex cable. Make sure that it is all the way inserted inside the connector and the fingerprint sensor came back inside the Pixel 8 Pro. On the left is what I had and the fingerprint sensor was not showing up. On the right is how it is supposed to look. So now I'm registering my fingerprint, the first one after installation of the new screen. The fingerprint is working. I just tested it after the device was turned on and off and it is working. So after that, I need to press on the fingerprint sensor for it to be completely attached to the screen. Now that I know that the fingerprint sensor is working, the screen is working, it is time to press on it to make sure that everything sits right. Before sealing the device, if you have these things on the inside of your frame, you need to clean it. You need to remove any double-sided tape that might still be inside the frame of your Pixel 8 Pro or any debris, dust and all those stuff that you see. So I finished with a cotton swab and alcohol in order to clean everything, have the frame ready for the glue. Before you close the device, extremely important, make sure that you apply pressure on all those small pins that you see all over the device, on the bottom and at the top. Make sure you apply and have them lay flat. If not, you will need a new screen. For this one, I use B7000. I just lay a small layer of B7000 on all four corners of the device. If your screen replacement kit comes with double-sided tape, you can use double-sided tape alone or use double-sided tape with B7000. If it is the same as mine, it doesn't come with a double-sided tape, you can simply use B7000 in order to seal the device. Since I'm using B7000, I will need to use repair clamps that are going to apply constant pressure on the screen and the frame of the device for everything to be tightly sealed. So here's the new screen with the Pixel 8 Pro. Fingerprint is working. Beside it, the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Both relatively the same screen size. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like and share, and I will see you on my next video.